Hey guys, it's Lori with A Voice in the Dark on YouTube, spiritscrossing.net, and it starts with us. We are going through it now, having to face all of our misbeliefs, systems in ourselves and others. Um, the reason I love America, United States of America, is because it has always been a melting pot for those who were strong enough to say enough and walk away to the promise of a new country. Some of us have been here so long, our generations, that we have lost the perception of what it was to work and fight for what we wanted in this country, to get our equal rights up, and for all, not just some, not just for the men, for all of us. And women are still treated substandardly, especially in workforce, in a lot of them, unless there's a good, strong union. And then we have been inundated for 50 years with hate crimes and violence in the cities and our news. Well, for God's sakes, I counted it up one time. It was 9 or 10 people out of a couple million. We're going to let 9 or 10 people dictate our fears, dictate our lives, our hearts? I think not. Now, I grew up in one town where it was all whites for a long time. Then the blacks started moving in, and the parents decided to move. Well, then we moved to it. And I had been friends with this little black boy down the street that had moved in. And I found it odd that my parents would have to talk to me about moving into a town where no blacks were. They weren't allowed, even back then. I was in first grade, second grade, something like that. And it was sad. And then we stayed there for a while. My parents they always owned businesses and stuff. So, but they decided that the drugs had gotten too bad and rampant into the 60s and stuff. So they decided to buy a property somewhere else and start somewhere new. And we went to Europe and we had all kinds of fun. I saw a lot of poverty there. Made me really sick, and I was 12, so it really made an impact on my life about human rights. And if you haven't traveled the world and seen what's really out there and how it really is, and you don't have to travel that far, go down to Tijuana, Mexico. You have to understand that our forefathers fought for this country because we were tired of being controlled. Tired of being told we didn't have an opinion, tired of being told we couldn't work for a living and make a decent wage. It took years to get the children out of the workhouses. They treated us like, I don't know, cattle, or pigs or whatever you want to call it. Workhorses. That's all they saw us for. That's all the humans here. Now that's Irish, Scottish, French, African. They brought slaves over. The Chinese were here. The Chinese were just as responsible for helping build these railroads as the blacks were. And then there was Japanese there. There were people from all over the world trying to get away from and try to feel like they could work towards something and become something themselves. That's a big thing. And we've gotten so spoiled that we forget these things. And they're trying to take it out of our history now. They want to go back to 2013 and stop all history. Anything from 2013 on is a go. That's bullshit. So buy as many books as you can over the next couple of years. And if a library goes out, try to buy out as much as you can, especially on history, because you really need to know what really happened. Because they're not going to tell you. They're going to lie about it. Anyway, back to when we were moving around. Okay, so then when we got back from Europe and we had moved to this new town, my parents had to sit us down and tell us what it was like to be around blacks again. And me and my sister kept looking at each other because we didn't understand where this was coming from because we've never experienced a problem with them. Okay, me and her hadn't. I didn't until 8th grade. And it was brief. I fought back and put it on made it even, Steven, back off. But the whole point is that it wasn't all the blacks. Matter of fact, all the rest of the blacks were pretty cool. It wasn't until I got a little older that my mother, I asked her, I said, what is with you and black people? I mean, we've had black cleaning ladies and all that, and what's the deal? She goes, you weren't around when the race wars were here. Now, they came out of the Depression and then went into race wars. You know, and then in the 60s were popping, and you know, it was bad. And my mom lived in the heart of the city, and it was bad for her and my aunt. And so then I could understand more, you know. You cannot afford to not listen to your grandparents at this point in time, is what I'm trying to tell everyone, or any old person older than you. Because we remember. We remember what our parents went through. We remember what our grandparents went through. My grandparents were separated for years after World War II because he had to go all the way out to the West Coast to get a job to support her and the 3 boys. There are a lot of things that we had to do that were different, that were horrible. We were separated from families, and during the Depression, because all the adults worked, the children ate last, and they only got what was left over. So when my mom and aunt threw a party, by God, the children went through the line first because they weren't going to have that in their homes. But it's something that you need to understand where it all comes from. You got to understand where we're coming from. Why it's important to look at the greater good. So here I'm in Edwardsville. Sorry, I don't usually say where I'm at. It is a college town. So we have a plethora of walking, talking, different cultures here. We've got Arab, so that's the Eastern. We've got Chinese. We've got Japanese. We've got Armenians. We've got, oh God, you name it, we've got it. Germans, English. The thing is that if you don't involve yourself in a little culture, you will never understand anybody, and you will never make room in your heart for another being that is human. They're one of us, like it or not. I don't care what color their skin is or what their culture is. That's just what their body, their soul chose for this lifetime. Hell, you could have been black most of your lifetimes. Maybe you are an ancestor from the ancient Egypt where they were black. Or Arab. Oh my God. Oh. Muslim. I'm sorry. I don't understand how you can be religious. Say you're religious. Oh, and Jesus this and Jesus that. Well, let me tell you something about Jesus. He loved you so much. He came down here. We're not even from here. We're from a higher dimension. But he came down here. He loved you so much to try to show you how to become him, like him, just like him, identical. Because we all have it inside our hearts. But if you've closed off your heart and think that, oh, I just have to hail Jesus and I'll get in heaven. No, you won't. I hate to bust everybody's fucking bubble, but you won't. The only way you're going to get in heaven is when you stop the dividing all of us. Stop the general prejudices. And I still have some, and I get mad at myself when it shows up in my tongue. It does, though. It takes time. I mean, it's not something you can rid yourself overnight, especially when you're raised in it. And they were never abusive of it. My dad he took me down to St. Louis and taught me how to horse trade with the black guys down there that were, tearing out the old buildings that had all the cool, you know, um, woodwork and, architectural pieces. Anyway, but the point being is I saw them as working class people too. Just other people working for a living. I don't know if it's because our skins are opposite, black and white. But, and I'm not stopping here that it's just between black and whites. In America, I have seen people ready for a race war. Against who? A handful of punks and gangs? And really, that's a whole different subculture. It's small compared to the rest of us. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I feel there's a big need for all of us to sit back at this time and take in us, just us. What is my beliefs and where do they come from? And is there any I can correct? And what would Jesus do in a situation like this? He'd sit in it and he'd talk to Father. I talk to Father and Mother. But instead of barreling ahead thinking it's okay to have hate in your heart, because it's not. You have to accept the universe is dark and light. You couldn't have light without the dark. You couldn't see the light if you didn't have dark. You wouldn't know that it was really there. I think that's one of the reasons the universe was created this way, so that we could always see, because as souls, we're little golden light beings, and as souls, we are just joy and sensuality and creativity and excitement and purity. And then we come here and rock that shit to hell. But we eventually are supposed to work our way back up to the joy and love. And remember that we are gods. To remember that we are just an aspect of Source trying to find what it's all about. So he created all of us. And we're all uniquely different, except for our hearts. Our hearts are one. And so when one heart starts hurting, other hearts do too. And that's when we need to get really strong and realize that anger and hate, anything negative, is no longer something we can work with or even play with or tally with. Because when one hurts, it will affect all of us eventually, which we're seeing now. There is no supreme race. There is no supreme culture. Because you like to call it black race, white race. It's not. It's not. There's only human race. We're all human. Until you get a little more advanced in your spirituality, and you'll find out we're all friggin' aliens. And there's a plethora of them here that are from all kinds of different forms, and I want to address them now. Wake up and think about this. We came here to help, and we are. However, there still seems to be some of us that, and I'm one of them, don't get me wrong, are not making room for all of us. And I've been yelled at recently through the ethers. Somebody that I don't know. If they knew me better, they'd shut up. But anyway. Trying to get some people to understand where our hearts come from for most of us humans, because we come from a heart center, most of us. That's what makes us passionate. And our sexuality makes us feel passionate. And we put those two together, our heart and sexuality and sensuality, and we are rocking on with creativity. And that's okay. That's part of being a god. That's part of being a soul. They dirtied everything here. They lied about so much in religion. So if you really, truly want to help heal the divide, then we need to see each other as multiple species in one human form, which makes the human race. And the universe is so proud of us right now because we have grown. We have grown by leaps and bounds in our hearts. It only took, there's only 8% of the population that's actually real on this planet. The rest of it is background. A small portion of it is the golden light beings. Another portion of it is the light beings that came here to help. And then there are other beings that are here to help us face lessons that we're meant to face and get over. And you would call them angels. Some are fallen angels. I mean, I'm even giving all that up right now because it just doesn't matter anymore. What matters is our growth. What matters is that we've made it this far. What matters is that we are each unique individuals, and we are meant to explore who we really are. And we can't do that if we keep sticking to hate and fear. Maybe it's time that we start doing everything different again. One of the things you need to understand is all you have to do is say, I do not consent to the elite, and they have to stop what they're doing. And so does Trump and his billionaires, because they're all part of that crowd. And because it was written in the contract, the original contract, to help the light beings, golden light beings, get well-rounded and get back off the planet and go home. That's why sometimes when you get to the point where you just know that there's something different about you and you're not sure what it is, but you'll look at the stars and somehow you just want to go home. If you feel like I just want to go home, then you're a star being, and you're probably one of the golden light beings that came here and got stuck. So, give yourself a break. Yeah, you do belong somewhere else. But the Federation of Planets and the rest of the universe is pretty happy with all of us right now, because it was only going to take 6% of that 8% to center in love to pull us all through, and then to 5D thinking and 5D experience, which is more peaceful and loving. Telepathy is used more. But one of the things you have to learn, too, is that if you find yourself in isolation, it's because you tend to still have a lot of, because I figured that out finally for myself, you still have a tendency for anger, and stuff that's a little more aggressive. And you really got to watch your thoughts, because they can read your thoughts. All the fallen angels can read your thoughts. All the angels can. I'm not sure about everyday people, but they might be able to. I'm being told, yes, that's one gift I gave back. No, I tried it for 3 days. That was 40 some odd years ago, and I went, no, you can have that one back. I hope I don't regret it later, but, anyway, they took it back. 3 days of listening to people think about me. I said, all these people think these crazy shit. Uh-huh. and maybe that was the big point, If you can hear other people think, maybe you'll pay attention to more what you think. And so anyway, you were never punished for coming here. God wasn't punishing you. A force took over here that wasn't meant to be here after our human form was created to house our souls. We have powerful souls. And that force would like us to stay here because it likes to, use our energy to make them feel better. And ours is unlimited. We're part of the universe itself, so, and we're from the higher realms. And so anyway, you were not being judged. You were not being condemned. You were not being anything. God knew with you being here and the people that were going to be here to lead, you would experience a lot of what young souls would call 3D, and the experience of positive, negative. And the whole point is to come to terms with it in a peaceful way. That yes, there are things that aren't copacetic for the total whole. And I like to believe that we get to a point that everything will be done with the greater whole in mind instead of not. We have rights as human beings against the forces here. We don't have to bring up arms, but we have a right to speak. When I watched an African new president say, well, why should we care about the poor? They didn't stand up for themselves. Why should we care for them? Really? That's your attitude? Okay, Genghis Khan, I've been here before. Anyway, did it ever dawn on any of you hardened assholes out there that nice people that just want to live simply, no matter what country, no matter what part of the world, no matter what color, culture, or sex, that they would just like to live simply? And they're hoping for the best because they didn't come here in this lifetime to be part of the upper regime, to make the choices. They're used to you guys making the choices and stuff. But when you turn nasty on them and mean, I think it's time to wake them up. So to all the people out there that are nice and kind and people see it as a weakness. So stop being weak. Use your voices. Write your emails to your government. And write it to both sides if you're in a democracy, because they both need to hear it. In the United States of America, the Constitution is written so that it is an agreement to work together for each party's needs. It's never supposed to be just one side all the time, in either way. But the United Nations has a basic 30-law statement, the 30 basic human rights. So I'm telling the world to read it. And you better get it quick because they'll probably try to take it off the internet. But if you ever need a copy, I got some. And then I got copies of that 2025 agenda for the Heritage Foundation, too, if you ever need a copy of that. But there is no room in this world anymore for strong, dictatorships. There just isn't. And capitalism can't support a country. That's a fucking fallacy. There is no trickle-down economics. It's all a lie. Look where we're at. So do yourself a favor and get a little bit educated. Ignore the propaganda, ignore the news, because it's all part of it. They bought into our country so long ago, and they've been screwing us up ever since, one step at a time. So anyway, but we're all intelligent. We came from the toughest cookies from every country. We're intelligent. We're strong. We got good backgrounds. So I don't care where you think you fall. Maybe you had a bad education. Maybe you just never bothered with all that. But now you have to. And our human rights are being violated in this country now, the way President Trump is talking, and the way the Heritage Foundation was communicating in their 2025 agenda to take over, make it a dictatorship, and let the neo-Nazis of the country, right-wing Christians, rule. And we need to see it for what it is, instead of, we all wish we had the magic button to press to make everything okay. But what this country's based on and how it was built is to work through things. Some things need more attention right now and some things don't. And we have always been friends through NATO with all kinds of countries. There is a portion of our budget that goes to that. But let me tell you something. All the things you people get upset about, food and health and for any of the poor, and I've been there. I was a single mother, and I raised 2 kids by myself and several dogs. And it's not easy. And then part of my granddaughter lived here for a while. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not easy. And I've seen piss poor, and I've seen just above average. And that's it. And now I'm retired, and I'm at piss poor again. It's ridiculous. So they took and jacked all these prices up because the largest retired people, group of people is happening right now. From the baby boomers to, me, because I retired a couple of years early because I could. But we earned every right to live the rest of our lives out in comfort. We paid our taxes, both local, state, and federal. We paid into our Social Security, and so did the companies we worked for. That was to protect us for our retirement. But then they jacked the prices up. Nobody can afford to be retired. We've done our work. And it should be a given across the world. So what I'm saying is, if you're weak, one of the weak ones, one of the ones that'll never speak up because you're afraid, what everybody will say, because you're out looking to see what everybody else is saying. You need to sit down with yourselves, by yourself, and ask yourself, what foolishness is this of me? And then become part of the solution. Pray, meditate, talk to God, or Jesus if it makes you feel better, or whoever you all pray to. Doesn't matter, it all gets there. But the entrapment that is heading towards us is this. My teeth want to pop. There are souls here that are so wrapped up and still stuck in the negative and the denial of their soul self, much less any religion. And I don't care about religions. I don't. I church hopped. I went to a lot of them. I've studied a lot of them. Nothing in depth, but enough that I knew I didn't need one, because I've been talking to God since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I always will. So, and I've never been not answered. So, and I didn't find God in any of those buildings. I found him out in the yard. So, like the Native Americans, you really want to talk to God, go outside, sit in the yard, sit and play in the dirt if you can. Get yourself really grounded and talk to God. But I didn't mean this to end up being a I wasn't sure what this was going to be, to tell you the truth. I see a crisis coming. Now I want you to remember that you still have to be happy and at peace inside of yourself at least 51% of the time so that you can make the shift to 5D. Otherwise, you need to understand what you're going into. And no matter what they try to do to take you away from your soul connection to God, when you're ready, you put that out there, and God will find a way to get the answer to you. They're going to try, because they've been trying it forever, giving us fluoride to calcify our pineal gland, which is our one living organism within the brain that was directly linked to Source. But Source finds other ways. And I wanted you to know that not all hope will be gone, but it'll be harder. But the more effort you put in it, Source will put the work in it with you. I want to see everybody go, but that's me, you know. I don't like to leave anyone behind, not even the fallen angels. I've been working on them, but that don't work too good. They're stubborn. But the price you pay for taking longer to get in your heart and getting with God, that personal relationship, the price is you get stuck here all the time. And they keep cycling these souls. When you get to the white light, they don't have to cycle you. You can tell them, no, you're done. I want to go home. There's a healing place that not them. Someone from one of the higher realities will come down and get you. But because there's healing for the soul is still pure. The soul is still okay. They're going to talk you into this karmic crap. Not. God expects you to come down here and explore. He knows that some of us, some were drug addicts, some were alcoholics, some were sex addicts, some were food addicts, some were clothes, shopping, everything kind of addict that you can dream of. Because you find something good and you want to keep going, And, but he expected that. She expected it. There's always forgiveness. You were forgiven the day you were created. Jesus just helped you remember that. He wanted you to remember who you were, not worship him. He wanted you to remember who you were. He wanted you to stand up in your God power, your divinity, and that you belong to a supreme being greater than all things put together, and that you are an integral part of that, and it's your heart is the key. So as these nightmares start happening around the world, and there's going to be plenty, because just keep telling yourself that only 8% of the population is real. That'll help. The rest is backdrop people. And some of it's going to be family, some of it's going to be other people. It doesn't mean that you don't have compassion and empathy for them, but do not let it bring you down no matter where they go, what happens. And this is going to be around the world. And I'm a firm believer that God has all of us in the place he wants us right now, because he knew these times were coming. So there needs to be compassion and empathy within your borders, close to your home. You need to get out and understand people that you live around and make sure that they're okay. I've got a lot of retirees here in this cul-de-sac I'm in. So you got to find out if they're okay. And you may have to just work together towards things to get through some of this. People are going to... I'm finding a lot of people on Facebook. I belong to a lot of different groups, and what I'm finding is that suicide is on the rise. Young people trying to figure out, well, why am I so nice and why am I treated the way I am? It's to show you that there is something that you need to build stronger in yourself, and it has to do with self-love. No matter where it came from, because we're not here to bash our parents or our families. Yes, they contributed to the problem, but they also had families that did that to them. Yeah, different things, but it's generational. And alcoholism has ruined a lot of households throughout history. So we're cleaning up everything now. That's what this time bar is for. Cleaning up ancestral lines that couldn't have done any better than they did, because that's all they knew. Every generation does a little better than the last. So don't hold a grudge towards your parents or your families, but straighten yourself up and start loving yourself enough so the rest of the world knows how much to love you. I've had to learn that one. It's a hard one. And but love yourself so much that the world has no choice but to see how you want to be loved, because that's how you love yourself. And once you love yourself at a certain level, you're not going to accept anything less. So even in friendships. So get your addictions taken care of, all of you, because there is no room for it anymore. Not with where we're going. We're either going up or we're staying here and it's going to get dark. So blessings and love, Lori. Lori out. Talk to you later.